Do you find it harder to focus than before? Do you feel mentally tired even when you haven't done much? Or feel restless even when nothing is happening? And when you finally try to relax, does your mind immediately look for something else? The day hasn't even started yet, and the phone is already in your hand. A quick check, one notification, then another. Then something else catches your attention. And before you even get out of bed, your mind is already busy. Throughout the day, there's always something pulling your attention. A message, a notification, a quick scroll. One video turns into another, then another, then another. You open your phone for a second, and 10 minutes disappear. Sometimes you don't even remember what you just watched. Even when there's nothing to do, the phone comes out automatically. A few seconds of silence, and something feels missing. So you scroll again. Even relaxing doesn't feel quiet anymore. A show plays in the background. The phone in your hand, something else in your mind, multiple things at once. And somehow, your mind never really slows down. Even during simple moments, attention keeps shifting. You start watching something, then check your phone, then check something else, then switch again. One thing rarely holds your attention for long. Even conversations get interrupted. A quick glance at the phone, a notification, a distraction. Even when nothing urgent is happening, the urge to check is still there. Silence starts to feel uncomfortable. Waiting becomes harder. Even short pauses feel longer than they used to. So the mind looks for something else. Another scroll, another video, another distraction. Even at night, it's hard to fully disconnect. One more video, one more scroll, just a few more minutes, and suddenly, it's much later than expected. The next day, it starts again. More information, more content, more things competing for your attention. And slowly and without noticing, your mind never really gets a break. It wasn't always like this. There used to be more quiet moments, more time without distractions, more space to just think. But now, silence feels different. Waiting feels longer. Doing nothing feels uncomfortable. The mind keeps searching for something. Something to watch, something to check, something to scroll. Even short moments feel harder to sit through. A few minutes with nothing happening, and the phone comes out automatically. Even relaxing doesn't feel relaxing anymore. A show plays. The phone is still in your hand. Another tab open. Multiple things happening at once. And somehow, your mind still feels busy. When was the last time you sat quietly, without reaching for something? When was the last time you focused on just one thing, without switching? When was the last time your mind actually slowed down? And slowly, without noticing, attention becomes shorter, patience becomes lower, and your mind gets used to constant stimulation. It might feel like you're just more distracted, like your focus got worse, like your mind became more restless. But maybe that's not the real problem. Maybe it's not that your mind changed. Maybe it's everything around you, because the world became louder, faster, more stimulating than ever before, more content, more notifications, more things competing for your attention. And slowly, without noticing, your brain started adapting to all of it. Your brain adapts to stimulation, and today there's more stimulation than ever before. Every day starts with information, messages, notifications, news, videos. Before the day even begins, your mind is already processing something, and it doesn't stop there. Throughout the day, more information keeps coming. One video, then another, then another. Endless scrolling, endless switching, endless stimulation, and slowly, your brain gets used to it. Faster content becomes normal. More stimulation becomes normal. Constant movement becomes normal. And once that becomes normal, quiet moments start to feel different. Slower moments feel uncomfortable. Silence feels unusual. Doing one thing feels harder, not because something is wrong, but because your brain adapted to constant stimulation. A quiet moment feels slower, a conversation feels calmer, a simple task feels less engaging, And compared to constant stimulation, normal life starts to feel slower, less intense, less stimulating. And slowly, your brain starts looking for more stimulation again. And the more stimulation your brain gets, the more it starts to expect it. Faster content becomes normal. Quick transitions, short videos, constant novelty, one after another. And slowly, your attention starts to change. It becomes harder to focus on one thing, harder to stay present, harder to stay still. A movie feels longer than it used to. A conversation feels slower. A quiet moment feels empty. So the mind starts looking for something else. Another scroll, another video, another distraction, and the cycle continues. The brain keeps adjusting. More stimulation becomes normal. And once that happens, ordinary moments start to feel less engaging. Not because they changed, but because your brain expects more. And slowly, attention becomes shorter. Patience becomes lower. And staying focused becomes harder than before. And over time, something else begins to happen. Your brain stops getting real rest. Even when you're not doing anything, your mind is still active, still processing, still switching, still searching for stimulation. And slowly, mental fatigue starts to build. Not physical fatigue, mental fatigue, the kind that makes it harder to focus, harder to stay present, harder to think clearly. Even simple tasks feel heavier, not because they're difficult, but because your mind is already overloaded. And when your brain is overloaded, everything starts to feel harder. Focusing becomes harder. Relaxing becomes harder. Even enjoying things becomes harder. Because your mind never fully slows down. It just keeps going. One thought after another, one distraction after another. And slowly, your brain stays in a constant state of stimulation. And this is why your mind feels restless. Not because you're lazy, not because you lost your focus, not because something is wrong with you, but because your brain is constantly overstimulated. Constant information, constant switching, constant stimulation. And when your brain never gets a break, it becomes harder to slow down, harder to focus, harder to relax. But once you understand this, something changes. Because it means you're not broken. You're not losing your ability to focus. Your brain is just overwhelmed. And when you realize that, you stop blaming yourself. You stop thinking something is wrong, and your mind slowly begins to settle again. Because your brain was never meant to handle this much stimulation, this much noise, this much information. And in a world that never slows down, your mind never gets a chance to slow down either. But once you start noticing it, things begin to change. Not instantly, not dramatically, but slowly, quietly. Your mind feels calmer, your focus feels stronger, and silence stops feeling uncomfortable. Because sometimes your brain doesn't need more stimulation. Sometimes it just needs a little less.